Director Zhu Jiyan of the Liver Transplant Center at the People's Hospital of Peking University told China Economic Weekly, "Our hospital conducted 4,000 liver and kidney transplants within a particular year."
So we had to cross-check everything. We had both going on the cross-check against staff, beds, search publications, media reports against the purchase of immunosuppressive drugs, and every which way we could. And what we were able to do by all this cross-checking is develop a consistent picture. And in that particular case, we came to the conclusion that yes, it's under 4,000 real.
Shenzhen Central Hospital, they have 500 beds. That's over there. 500 dedicated transplant beds. Now they were claiming in their internal communications at several points they were doing 131% occupancy. What that means, you get a 20 to 30 day stay, and what it would suggest is they're doing like 5,000 transplants a year.
These examples show that China's official claim of 10,000 transplants per year is easily surpassed by just a few hospitals. But these two hospitals are just the tip of the iceberg. The investigators found that more than 1,000 transplant hospitals applied for permits from the Ministry of Health in 2007 to continue doing transplants. That suggests these hospitals met the ministry's minimum capacity requirement for transplant centers it certifies.
159 were eventually selected. If you assume hospitals just operating the minimum, never mind actual estimate is closer to 100,000.
Organ transplantation has been continuously incorporated into the National 5-Year Plan and has become a high priority in China's national strategy. A large number of organ transplant research and training projects are funded under the major national programs and funds.
Bringing in about $9 or $10 billion a year is this industrial transplant operation going on across China. It's a lot of money, a lot of hospitals are financing a lot of their activities through that.
CITNAC website stated, "We need to give all of the thanks to the government for the support extended for our completing such a large number of organ transplants every year. This is a one of a kind in the world." Researchers were particularly struck by one aspect of these transplants. Unlike anywhere else in the world, they were being done on demand. The 2006 Liver Transplant Registry report showed that 27% of samples were emergency transplants. That means they found a new liver within days or even hours. One hospital in southwest China claimed to have donors seeking matched recipients, and also promised, in case of failure, we will continue to perform transplants until one is successful.
Another example that's, I can't get out of my head, is a man from a country who went twice to China. First time he went, they brought him 4 sets of kidneys, and none of the 4 was compatible with him. 4 months later, he came back, and they gave him 4 more sets of kidneys until finally the 8th kidney worked. And when we saw him, he was doing fine. But 8 human beings have been killed.
In northeastern China, the International Transplantation Network Assistance Center stated on its website, "China carries out kidney transplants from living sources. It's completely different from cadaveric kidney transplants in Japan."
Because they have a bank of live donors waiting to get a match on the computer. Like some horrible restaurant where you go in and see a lobster and say, "I want that lobster," and the lobster's killed. It's a crime against humanity.
The Chinese government claimed that the vast majority of organs came from death row prisoners, and later, donations. However, international organizations estimate that the number of death row executions at 1,000 each year since 2000 is decreasing. Chinese tradition requires that bodies remain whole after death. There was no organ donation system in China before 2010. Even today, there are very few donations. Therefore, these two sources combined account for only a tiny fraction of all transplants performed in China. China started performing transplants with organs harvested from executed prisoners at a small scale in the 70s. In the years that followed, it also started using organs from prisoners of conscience.
In 1999, the crackdown that following on starts. That is the largest action of scale by the Chinese Communist Party since the Cultural Revolution. And by 2000, 2001, that's when you have this explosion of transplant activity. We see continuity in the numbers over time.
The official line in terms of repression of the party is bankrupt and financially ruined their reputation, destroyed physically. So that the vilification is destroying their reputation. The organ transplants is destroying the physically. There's the physical examinations, the blood testing, the organ examination, which have no other explanation than the suitability for the transplant.
Things like convert or die. Convert or die. Turn in your friends or die. And that's state-sponsored. Because we did not expect, after the Holocaust, to see this kind of medical corruption again.
Since I've been a student of the Holocaust, I feel that to a certain extent, what we're seeing is just a continuation of what we saw there in another form, which is the endless and bottomless depravity of human nature. I mean, there's no limit to the form of evil that people can sink.
When I was writing this letter, I sometimes said no on writing history, and then at the end of it, I realized I wasn't. It was actually still going on. This is a new form of genocide, and it's using the most respected members of society to implement it. This is one of the central tests of our time. We can't avoid this any longer.
This video is produced by the China Organ Harvest Research Center. Some flyers you can take with you. So this video, the content is mainly based on the investigation by David Mathers, David Kilgore, and Ethan Goodman, who was the first analyzed the transplant abuse in China. Now I want to give you some analysis and our own research results on this. First, this is the official claimed organ source in China. So China had no organ transplantation, no organ donation system, not at all, before 2010. So in the year 2010, they have introduced a pilot system, and after 2013, it became a national organ donation program. Before 2010, there was no organ donation at all. Without such a program, but you can see the people have no way to donate. That's why in this time range, over 30 years, the total organ donation is only 130, but over 102,000 transplants have been performed. The real number is much higher, I think, in the field, but this is a number, official number from China. So where are these organs from? The official source is that these are from executed prisoner. But to give you an analysis, this cannot be possible. Execution is much lower to supply such a high number of organs. So after 2015, the Chinese government says that we have stopped using organs from prisoner, and that voluntary donation is the main source, is the only source. Also, this cannot be true. I will show you evidence of that. So the organ transplant system in China is unique in the world because it is a organ on-demand system. What does it mean? It means that the organ transplant operation can be planned in advance, and the waiting time is extremely short, and the major organs are not coming from donation after death, but from living people. So first look at one example. This is Professor David from Israel.
It was back in 2005 when a patient of mine, who has been on the top list of patients for human heart transplantation, came to me one day and told me that he was told by his insurance company, his Israeli insurance company, to go to China in 2 weeks' time as he was scheduled to undergo heart transplantation. And when I asked him how come such a surgery can be scheduled ahead of time, somebody was to die on the very day of the operation, he said he didn't know, and he went to China and got his heart transplantation exactly on the day that he was promised.
So it was in 2005. China has no organ donation system. The official statement is that all organs are coming from executed prisoners, but China has a law: execution must be performed within 7 days after the death sentence is announced. This means that in this case, 2 weeks in advance to plan a heart transplantation. Also, the organ is not coming from execution. So also in this case, it's very clear that it's very likely from political prisoners. And this is from this single case. Professor Lavi had learned that China is killing people for organs. And what he can do, can wait till the evidence is verified worldwide, or it can take action immediately. He took action immediately. It was the case in 2005, and he tried in Israel to change the transplantation law, because before this time range, every year, over 100 patients came from Israel to China for organ transplantation. And the very unique thing is that in Israel, the health insurance paid everything. And so because of his effort, Israel has a new transplantation law in 2008. So within 3 years, it has introduced a new law based on his effort. And from that time on, there is no patient coming from Israel to China for organ tourism. So this is one single example. And here, if you look at the web page and publications, there are a lot of hospitals showing that we have reached achievement. We have records established with over 20 transplantations in a single day or simultaneously. You can imagine such a transplantation cannot happen just by chance. There's such an organ transplantation are all planned in advance. So the second characteristic is that the waiting time in China is extremely short, even in a time without an organ donation system. Here you can see one example from the Tianjin Oriental Transplantation Center. We see that in the video. And here you see that the average waiting time for a liver in this hospital is 2 weeks. So this is a civilian hospital. And in the military hospitals, the average waiting time is 1 week. This is in Shanghai. So there is a China International Transplantation Network Assistance Center, and they promise that they can provide organ anytime, immediately. And this is not a black market dealer. Here you can see this center is established at the China Medical University. They have the only focus on foreign patients. So this is the official professional institution with the only purpose for organ tourism. And this is possible that they can find organs so quickly This we have just also seen in the video. It is a report from the China Liver Transplant Register. A large number of organs are indicated as emergency transplantation. This means that the liver is found within 3 days, or even within hours. This is not heart liver. So you can, in many countries, you can take heart liver from a living person and to do the transplantation, but at that time, most liver transplantations are whole liver. One liver is a person's life. So these are all in the time range in China without organ donation system. Still, the time the waiting time is extremely short. And where do the organs come from? And here we can, the official statement is that the organs all come from execution. Let's see whether this is possible. So the official number of transplantation in the year 2004, we take this as an example, is 12,000 liver and kidney combined. And the real number is much higher. And I just show you why I say that. And in 2016, there was a hearing in the US Congress. The US government have invited David Matas and Izzy Goodman. These are the people who investigated the transplant abuse in China, but also China's supporter is Professor Domenico, is the one who defends the Chinese system. Professor Domenico also submitted a written statement. He is trying to say that, yeah, the situation in China was bad, but it's now everything fine. And he said, it is written, this document can still find it in internet. He said that in 2006, more than 11,000 transplants were performed in China on foreign patients, but now not a single is for foreign patients. So he's trying to say that the situation in China is better. But if in 2006, only for foreign patients, it was 12,000. So this number cannot be true. The total number in 2004 cannot be 12,000. It must be many times higher. But if even we take this minimum number, is it possible that the organs for this transplantation came all from execution? There are other possible organ sources. One is the living kidney donors, so relative can donate one kidney, but this number is in China very low because at that time there are plenty of organs from prisoners, so living organ donation is not popular. It was only 64 in this year, and the disease organ donation in the 40 years time range, 30 years time range is only 140. So these sources are very limited. This means that almost all the organs must come from prisoners. What kind of prisoners? It is really from execution. So in the year of 2004, the whole world outside China, execution number was 400. So how high should it be in China? Several thousand. Let's say 4,000. It's 10 times than the whole world. It's high enough, but this is high enough to provide organs for transplantation. Each person has one liver, 2 kidneys. So from 4,000 execution, we can get 12,000 organs. So the organ transplantation number is 12,000. It fits perfectly. You must consider an organ transplantation from the prisoners. This is illegal in China, actually. There was a law that allows organ to be taken from executed prisoner, but under the condition that the prisoners consent. But in China, nobody asked for consent in that years. So it's just that the doctor is just taking the organs from executed prisoners. So this is illegal. It is a crime. It is a crime. It happened locally based on a personal relationship. So if a doctor knows the judge, so he can get the organ. If you have not such a relationship, you cannot get organs. It's always a private trade. There was no organ donation system. There was no distribution system for such illegal organs. That's why it is always local trade. So this means that in every location, in every event, is exclusion of 5 or 3 prisoners, and you have 10 patients with the organ. Then the organs must be compatible to your patient. If the prisoner and the patient are not relative, the chance that the organ fits the person is only 6%. So you can imagine that even if it is possible to get 12,000 organs from 4,000 executions, but only a low number of organs can be really used just because of the teaching machine. So this means that even the minimum number, the official number, cannot be covered by execution. Not to mention the real number is much, much higher, and the waiting time is extremely short. This means that if all the organs really came from execution, China must execute hundreds of thousands persons. So this is not possible. So the execution can only contribute a small part. So the major organs came from other people, so innocent people who were killed for organs. So then after 2015, China says that they have a donation system, and all the organs now come from voluntary donation, and no organs were performed on foreigners. So this is an investigation by a journalist from South Korea. They have managed to go to the Tianjin hospital and have made record with hiding camera. So what is found out in this investigation? The waiting time is very short, from days to weeks, and the one patient must wait 7 weeks. It is quite long for the hospital. And on a single day, 8 transplants were performed in the international department. This means that if you calculate this for a year, it's over 2,000 transplants for foreign patients. So organ tourism is still going on. And here you can see in the lobby of the building, there are 2 buildings. And here you can see there are 2 larger parts of the walls were officially indicated as international department. International department means that transplantation for foreign patients. So in 2018, the BBC journalist Matthew Hill has called a Chinese hospital himself and asked that I have liver problem, I want a liver transplantation. And also he was the hospital said that he can get a liver within weeks. And another investigation, so a number of hospitals were asked to provide a liver transplant. The most of the hospitals said that the regular time is between 1 week or 2 weeks. But sometimes we have also patients who have to wait 4 weeks or 8 weeks. So the regular time is 1 week to 4 weeks. So this is between the time range after 2015 that China said that voluntary donation is the only source is this possible that organ donation can provide so much high number of organs? If we compare this with USA, you can see this very clearly. So at the end of 2017, in US, 138 million people have registered as organ donors. In China, it's only 370,000. So this number has no meaning, it's too low. And from this registered organ donors, there was an actual organ donor of 4,700. So another 5,000 organ donors were not registered, but they died in the ICU, and they also agreed to donate organs. So these are two parts, from registered and non-registered organ donors. So in China, we have no information. China just said that they have 5,000 deceased organ donors. It cannot be verified. And if we see the proportion, it's not to believe. If people are not willing to register themselves as organ donors, how is it possible that they agree to donate suddenly in ICU? And if we calculate all numbers reported in media together, the number is much lower than this 5,000. So, the official organ donation number is questionable, but even if this number is true, it may be possible to match the 40,000 transplants, but it can never be possible to guarantee a waiting time of days or weeks. If the organs are really from donations, 5,000, then you can imagine the waiting time must be similar as other countries where organs are taken from donations, like in US or in Europe. But it's not the case. So the waiting time is extremely short. This means that also in China, even after 2015, the majority of organs are not coming from organ donation, but from people who are killed for organs. This is possible to killing living people for their organs. Actually, it's not new. It has a long tradition. And here, we have seen this picture in the video. This is the China Organ Transplant Assistance Center. You see that in China, they are performing organ transplantation from living sources. Living sources can be living organ donor, living kidney donor, or living people who are killed for organs. So the living kidney donor in 2004 was only 16. So they have said that over 5,000 people have received kidney from living source. So this living these kidneys are from living sources, not from living kidney donations. And there are different types of organ harvesting from living people. We have summarized some of this in our publication. There was a very early, well-documented case in 1978. This girl is a school teacher. He hadn't commit any crime, just sentenced to death because of the assaults. And this case is well documented because the book also investigated the case, published the results first in the magazine, and one of the officers who performed the execution have then found the author and told him many details and corrected some mistakes. So the officers had a meeting before, and that day before, they have a discussion how the execution should be performed. They have an order from the top that this woman must not be killed because they want an organ with high quality. If you kill the person which dies, and the kidney is no longer perfused with blood, so the quality is better. So this is one example. The other one is a doctor who was ordered to take organs in 1995, and also here the body record was not dead. In such cases, the gunshot was not fired to the head but to the right chest, so that the heart is still working to enable organ perfusion. So these are single cases, but later in 2015, this is a very famous military doctor who he was interviewed by a Hong Kong journalist. He told that it's actually a rather common practice, because if you wait after the execution, after the people die, the organ quality is not good. That's why in many cases the prisoners were not killed immediately, just for the improvement of organ quality. So this is the first form of organ harvesting from living people, and this is of course done without anesthesia, so it's very painful. And from 1997, execution in China can also be performed by lethal injection, and the situation is not getting better, because in China the death is announced within tens of seconds after the injection starts. So it's not finish the injection, wait 10 of seconds. If you start the injection within tens of seconds, the person is announced to be dead, and organ harvesting can be started immediately. So you can be sure within 10 of seconds the person is not dead. We are not sure whether the heart beat stopped. Even the heart stopped beating within 10 of seconds, the person is not dead. And how about the situation with USA? In USA, they have different schemes, and the heart beat stopped after 9 minutes or 30 minutes after the injection started. And in USA, the people must wait 5 minutes after heart arrest to ensure that person is dead. This means that death is announced 14 to 18 times, 10 minutes after the injection starts. This means that in China, the practice is organ harvesting. Actually, if it is harvested from the prisoners after lethal injection, this is always at a stage that the person is not dead, it's still alive. What is worse is that such a lethal injection is very problematic, because there is studies with the concentration of penta in the blood, and the study shows that the dosage is not enough to guarantee anesthesia for surgery. This means that that's why the conclusion is injection is not inhuman. If we can apply the situation to China for the organ harvesting, we can imagine that for most of such persons, it must be very painful. So this is the second type of organ harvesting from prisoners after lethal injection. So these two types are organ harvesting on prisoners with death sentence. So criminals who are sentenced to death. And what about the prisoners of conscience, political prisoners? They have no death sentence. No death sentence, there is no reason to do execution. So for prisoners of conscience, political prisoners, if an organ is harvested from such a person, it is always from a living person. It's always too stupid if you kill the person first and take the organ quality will be bad. But it is, of course, very difficult to get evidence for that. But there is a publication in Chinese medical journals, and this situation is very likely such an organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience. Here we can see this heart transplantation was performed in a hospital of the Chinese People's Armed Police Force. This is a kind of military hospital. This is also the unit who normally perform execution in China. And the operation was performed in 2001. At that time, there is no brain death concept in China. China started organ donation after brain death in the year of 2003. So this is 2 years before. So this patient or donor cannot be a brain death patient, then it must be cardiac death patient. But if you look at the procedure of heart removal, you can see at first heparin is applied to inhibit coagulation. Heparin after application must be circulated in the whole body. This means that circulation is working, the heart is working. And indeed, if you look at further, this is that the heartbeat was stopped by cold cardioplagia solution. So the heart is working, this person is not dead, this is not brain death, this is not heart death, this is a living person, this is a medical doctors who stop the heart beat with such a potassium solution and then takes heart from the person. This is a heart removal that causes death. So this is the third form of organ harvesting from living people. It's very likely the situation on prisoners of conscience. Then in after 2003, China has begun to perform organ donation after brain death. Although there is no legislation on brain death in China, but the doctor said there is no law that allows such donation. There is also no law that prohibits organ donation after brain death. So the criteria for determination of brain death in China, the key point is not different, are not different from the criteria from other countries. So the very important are three criteria: death coma, deep coma, absence of brainstem reflex, and also without spontaneous respiration. This is very important. And also here is very emphasis said that this is necessary. This is necessary to verify that there is no spontaneous respiration by doing apnea test. How to do apnea test? Apnea test is to do by stopping the ventilation for 8 to 10 minutes to weigh whether there is a spontaneous respiration. So this means that the elimination of brain death can only be done on a patient who has already been intubated and ventilated. This is a normal situation. If a patient stopped breathing, what do you do? You try to rescue the patient, do incubation and do the ventilation, mechanical ventilation. Only if everything failed and at last you give up, you make a brain death determination. So this is a rare case. This means that to perform brain death determination, the patient must be ventilated already. But in China, there is a number of publications. If you look at, this is very strange. Here in this is a publication from a medical university. They say that there were 7 donors, brain death donors, and then if you look at the heart removal, they say that after donors' brain death, intratracheal intubation was performed from the ventilation. The brain death determination can only be done if the first patient is already intubated and ventilated. So without ventilation, you cannot do any brain death determination. This means that brain death determination is not performed. It is not a patient of brain death. And if you look at further, the heart is still working. So also here, this is a case that the situation never met the criteria for brain death, nor the criteria for cardiac death. So this is again organ harvesting from a living person. So this is one example. You have more. Clinically, after brain death, intubation was performed. Brain death individuals, intrahepatic intubation was performed. This was directly followed by organ removal. After the intubation, organ removal. After acute brain death, intubation. So this again, much more some examples. Also here, after intubation, ventilation, then organ removal. Also here, you can see the heart is still beating. So this is the fourth part, form of organ harvesting from living people. these are persons who are killed for organs. The doctor says that these are brain death patients, but they are definitely not brain death patients. And China has now classified organ donation in 3 categories: after brain death, after circulatory death, after brain death, followed by circulatory death. But this is a report from Chinese officials in 2014. They said that 90% of the doctors in China were unaware of the standard procedure. So again, here in 2017, he says that 70% of the donation are from brain death patients, nearly 30% are from brain death followed by cardiac death. This means that almost all the donation now are from brain death patients, but in the same article, he says that there are very few people who are really understanding this kind of thing. So in the abuse cases, we have just seen in the medical reports, such doctors do not understand brain death at all. They just try to use the definition of brain death to cover their crime of killing people for their organs. So this is a real case. We can see. Huang Yefu is the director of China's organ donation and development foundation, and also the former minister of health. He's the person who always talks to the world. You know? It's the speakman of China. So he was the vice minister. In the year of 2005, he went to Xinjiang. Xinjiang is a region, you know, more than 1 million or 3 million people who are interned in concentration camps in China. But he was there and he got a patient. The patient had cancer, liver cancer. And he I saw that this is very dangerous because it is on the backside of the liver and very close to vena cava. So it's very difficult. It comes to bleeding, it can cause death. That's why he wanted to try auto transplantation. It means that he cut the liver out, remove the cancer, and put the liver back to the body again. So it's easier to just remove the cancer tissue. But the situation is very difficult. We want to have a backup liver in the case that of fail, if the liver cannot be used. So he called in Chongqing and in Guangzhou in the afternoon of 28th in September. And in Chongqing, within hours, a matched liver has been found. It was in the time that China has no organ donation system, but still within hours, they have found a matched liver. And also later in Guangzhou, they have found a liver. So then the liver was transported to Xinjiang, and the liver arrived on the next day at 18 o'clock. And the operation started at 19. It was a very complicated operation. The operation was finished in the next morning at 10 o'clock, but with very complicated complications. That's why they have tried a lot. After 1 day, the situation got stable, and the transplantation was declared successful, and the backup liver is no longer used. So this is intensively reported in China because it is the first auto transplantation and is done by vice minister. It's why events is reported in the newspapers. But we will think about this liver. He said that at this time point, the reserve liver, the backup liver, is no longer needed. But in case of fail, can the liver still be used? The liver arrived at Xinjiang at 8 in the afternoon. This means that the liver must be removed at 2 o'clock, very likely, because the flight takes 4 hours. So on the 29th, this means that to this time point, how much time has gone? Over 40 hours. Over 40 hours, if the transplantation failed, can the liver be used? Of course not. The liver can only be used within 15 hours. But these are experts in liver transplantation. They know that. This means that the liver that transported from Chongqing, from Guangdong to Xinjiang are not livers, but persons. In case you need a liver, you kill the person, take the liver. But in this case, they do not need anymore, so the person is not killed. It cannot be liver. So this is reported very intensely in 2015, and this is not only the opinion of mine. A journalist from Hong Kong analyzed this case says that they must be leading people from transporting as a better for organs. So this is one example of killing of people for organs. So this is another example. This is a police officer. This is the best police officer in China. Was he's now arrested because of corruption. And but at that time he was very famous in China. You see, he has got a lot of medals. Do you know any people who get more medals? No. I guess only the military generals from North Korea have more. So he's not a medical doctor. He's a police officer, but he got a lot of prizes. One prize is for organ transplantation. It's not a medical, he has no medical background. So he founded a research institution, and his research was on organ transplantation from donor subjects to drug injection. And he got a prize, and on the ceremony, he gave a speech. He said that our research achievement is based on several thousand cases, several thousand transplantation. Several thousand in his research institution alone within 3 years. This was in the time China has no organ donation system. The official statement is that all organs are come from execution. How many executions? We say that each year perhaps several thousand. So for the 3 years, 12,000 execution for whole China. He was a police officer, police chief in Jingzhou City. Jingzhou City has a population of 3 million. So if in China, the whole number of execution for the 12,000, how much in his city? Less than 30. But he used several thousand of some people for his research. So this means that the majority of so-called donors are not people who are sentenced to death with death sentence. How can we find out this? And this is a military doctor, and this hospital is in Jingzhou City, and he is one of the medical doctors who cooperate with Wang Yujun, with the police officer. And there was a local newspaper in 2006. The newspaper said this is a great doctor. He has performed a lot of kidney transplant. Patients from Malaysia, from Taiwan came to him for kidney transplantation. So he, some of the kidney was from Wang Yujun's research. This is known. And Wang Yujun was arrested because of corruption and was sentenced to prison in September 2012. This means that from his arrest in February to September, it was a time that the Chinese government investigated Wang Yujun's crime. And people from North America have used this time. They called the military doctor and pretended to be from the Chinese government. They asked the doctor, you are one of the doctors who collaborated with Wang Lijun. Is that true? The doctor says that not only me, doctors from the China Medical University also collaborated with Wang Lijun. But indirectly, they admit he was one of the medical doctors who collaborated with Wang Lijun. Then the investigator said that the Wang Lijun, the police officer, has already admitted that some of the organs are from Falun Gong people. These are the people who are persecuted in China. So you have used the organs. Is that true? That many organs are from the Southern group, Falun Gong. He says that certain cases all went through the court. It's logical because in China, courts are the institutions that oversee prisons and legal camps. This is only through the court can it be possible. But this means not that the court has sentenced at least a death sentence. There is not a single death sentence for this group. It means that using organs from foreign people means killing of other people for them. So this is known actually since Matas and Kirko report in 2006, and the European Parliament have held many hearings. This is Dr. Peter Liebe. This is in one of such workshops where I also made presentation here. And his beginning speech, he explained why this crime happening in China is relevant for the people in Europe and in Germany, because many patients from Europe, from Germany, go to China and form. And so the European Parliament has a resolution in 2013, and also the US Congress has a similar resolution in 2016. But the Parliament had no power to take action. The European Union has power, but cannot take any action. And we have also asked the German government why they don't take any action. They say that they know that there is an investigation, there are documentation on that, but in China there is intransparency, so it's difficult to verify the facts. So somebody must verify the facts. This has been done by people of experts. That was in December in London. We can see the chairman is nice. He plays an important role in the case of Milosevic, and the lawyer Sabi was very important in the Iran tribunal, and they have analyzed hundreds of documents and hearings, and have come to the conclusion that in China indeed the organization happened. And this was in December 2018, and in June this year, they have made final judgment, and this has led to report media coverage all over the world. And also Deutschland Funk has reported on this. And I want to, this is a summary, a short summary of the final judgment. I want to point out the very last paragraph of this judgment. It says that the governments, not only governments, but also institutions like doctors and universities, if you interact with China substantially, and you should now recognize that you are interacting with a criminal state. China is not a normal state. China is not a criminal state. China is also not a normal China. So such a crime can happen. It's just because that the Communist Party has destroyed Chinese culture. That's the reason why. That's why we should not call China today China. You call Hitler's Germany, Nazi Germany. We should call China the Communist China. Thank you.
We are up to take a couple of questions. Ladies first.
Hi, I'm from Korea, and then I heard there was a case, the cruise between China and Korea. The passenger was kidnapped and then organ harvested on the cruise, and then these criminal people, they let the prisoners leave, but the organs were like kidney and it's harvested, and then also there's some cases that some people lost their child in the original part of Korea, and then they just lost their child, and then many years later, some kids, some victims were found in China, but their status was like losing a kidney, or one eye was missing. That is happening, and then it's quite well known in Korea, and then also some movie director made it as a movie. And have you heard of that?
Yeah, it's such a criminal cases that happen very often, but such a criminal cases cannot be compared with this. This is a system run by the state.
Yeah, but you have heard of the cases.
Yeah, there are some cases. Some I don't know where.
Actually, I have two questions. The first one is mismatch of numbers of donors, potential donors, and potential recipients. Could it also be that it does not match or it's not possible because the definition who is or the acknowledgement who is a recipient undergoes certain definition that only those who have, let's say, a certain status, social status, or lots of money are considered recipients, so that the potential number of recipients would be several hundred thousand, which shrink down to 12,000, because they're only eligible to get an organ. This is just a provocative question. But also from the recipient side, maybe the numbers are difficult to define.
Yes, the numbers are difficult to define. You mean that the match, if you are very strictly, it's difficult to get a match organ if you do it. But strictly, there can be the organs can be enabled, as more transplantation can be enabled. And that is theoretically possible. I found no evidence. Because this is true, so not a good match. So the patient will have problems after the transplantation. And but now I'm not aware of any studies showing that people who have that transplant in China have more problems with rejection.
Mm-hmm. And the second is, although the latest data you show are the latest information were from 2018, most of your data were from before 2010 or even earlier. So are there more data between 2010 and nowadays concerning the procedures, how organs are taken? Or would it give a little hope that due to different, also international surveillance, also that this practice now goes down, or it goes towards, let's say, remote places, like certain military hospitals which are not under public observation?
The reason why we got more information in the time period before 2006 is actually 2006, because before 2006, the situation in China is like Wild West. The hospitals make advertisement. Right? So they publish this transplant assistance center officially price number, price list, so how much it takes, and with this China Medical Center, you see that very openly the focus is on foreign patient. So this before 2006, so it's like crazy. So then in 2006, Matters and Quito has published their report. From that point, Chinese government has begun to remove data from the internet. That's why it's very difficult after 2006 to get information. But such a publications. These are also published recently because the doctors are not aware. They are what they are describing. It's not organ removal. It's a crime.
Some other questions? Maybe one last question? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I also read in the, I think in the Guardian this recent report, which looks that it's really thoroughly, I mean, supported by evidence, and then basically I expected that more would happen, because this kind of state-sanctioned crime is, I mean, it's rather on a level that you rather would like not to believe it. Yeah, right, to be there, but I think that is the problem. Can it be? Can that really be true? And so, but I think the evidence is there. But what was the reaction to that report? I read it in some media outlets in the Guardian. But is that process still going on, or what happened after that report, or what is in the pipeline?
This
What
is
action is going.
So this is very recent. China tribunal. The final judgment is published in June. So in Germany, in Bundestag, there was a hearing in May 2009 this year. Until this time point, the government still says that they cannot verify. They know that the organ transplantation in China is not normal. But with the reports, the investigations, the government say they cannot verify. So for the politicians, it's very safe to say that I do not believe it, I'm not convinced. If you are not convinced, you do not need to take action. If you say that I believe such evidence, you must do something against China. And likely the politicians nowadays do not want to do something against China. But there are some politicians in the Ausschuss für Menschenrechte. They are very active. Actually, last year there was as a final step to reach a resolution. The people from people in the Menschenrechtsausschuss sind dafür, but the people from the foreign Ausschuss, and Australia, Leute, die zuständig für Beziehungen mit China, die haben das gestoppt.
We have one more. For those people, including me, who have a lot of collaboration, interaction with Chinese universities, of course the question arises, is my university involved, my university clinic involved? So my question is, would you think that all clinics, major clinics, should be under suspicion, or is there a kind of ranking in, let's say, ethical issues that you say there are certain hospitals, but enough hospitals to deal with this procedure, but there are on the other side a certain amount of universities, maybe high-ranked university, internationally owned university, who actually cannot be allowed to follow this kind of practice?
It is difficult to say. No? Some people, some express that this is a system. That's why they say that almost all the hospitals in which organ transplantation are performed are involved in this crime. But I think that it's perhaps not all, because there is such a crime to killing people. It's, also in China, it's done under the cover. It's a type of secret. And we also see the case of which David Kigo mentioned. This is a military doctor who came to a civilian hospital for transplantation, to do transplantation, and every time he come with him to kidneys. So you can see this is such a secret, because he took two kidney. It can match or not match. If it's not match, the kidney are slow rate. But still, the secret is more important than organs or equipment. That's why he came to the civilian hospital only with kidney. As we, my our opinion is that some military hospitals have direct access to the kidney. But in case of such a collaboration, military hospitals, it means that such a civilian hospital have no direct access. Otherwise, they do not need such a collaboration. So this means that the doctors in that hospital can have no idea. They just see that there are plenty of organs that come that they know or pretend not to know, but such doctors are not there involved. So this is my own personal opinion. So such doctors are involved, some are not, some know, some don't know, some pretend know.
Okay, I have a very last question, very short, whether these, like apart from the important people, so the chief of the police or so, but more for this advertisement, it is only an economic matter for the party, so like to kind of get the money of these organs, or it is also to raise the consensus of the party as it gives like a sense of efficiency and of strength. If your health system works so well that you can have a liver in 1 week, this would in a certain way also raise the kind of the good impression that one citizen can have like in regards of the party, because it's guaranteeing a very efficient healthcare. So
No, the later case is not the case. It's wrong.
exactly.
Because in China, medical care, transplantation is not covered by insurance. It means that the situation in China is also not with the donation. The poor people donate organs, the rich people get organs because it's very expensive. That's why it's not the party to show the people that they are doing something good. And actually, this is only possible because the party want to get rid of anyway. The Falun is a very big group of people, and the party had big, unafraid of such a big people group, and that's why this education is very, very brutal. The party want to get rid of other people, and in case of transplantation, so you eliminate your enemy, and at the same time use the organs.
Good. So thank you very much for this discussion of today. Before finishing, I remind to the medical students that the list for signing is there, and I invite you to our last event that is going to take place next Thursday. And with that, thanks again very much for coming, and thanks again to Professor Lee for
Second,